KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We are telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. KC Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This KC Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. I'm Ruth Bombigas. Jessica Bentley-Johnson is a woman of passion. She's concerned about the food insecurity many in the community face. She launched a summer pantry program back in 2013 called Urban Community Link. Convinced that food insecurity is a layered problem, Jessica brought in Life Skills Connection program. Well, as her efforts grew, Jessica took this nonprofit through a rebranding, launching Urban Community Connections. Jessica joins us today to talk about this wonderful grassroots efforts helping those in need in the Kansas City area. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, well, we want to know, all right, so there's a big problem about food insecurity, and a lot of people know that, and they go on with their life, or they drop something, let's say, in a Harvester's or a local food pantry box. You did more. What was it that compelled you to go out, start a nonprofit, and try to address this?
Yes, so back in 2012, I became ill. It took about 6-7 months for them to figure out what was wrong with me. I was diagnosed with lupus at the end of 2012. And during that phase, I was unable to work, which meant money wasn't coming in as normal. And it made me have to tap into securing additional resources to just make ends meet at home. And not that there wasn't any resources, there was just a lack of resources in the area I was staying in at the time. So that meant I had to travel quite a bit in order to get these resources. And for me, I have a vehicle, but it made me think and take a look at what about those individuals that do not have vehicles? What about those parents that are having to work 2 and 3 jobs so the kids are home alone? Where can the children go and get food while their parents are at work? And so I connected with, at the time, Miss Stephanie at the Linwood YMCA was the executive director during that time. And we launched a summer pantry feeding program at the Linwood Y, and it just grew from there. And so I've been blessed to be able to serve the Kansas City community and meet them right at the needs and where they're at.
Well, I think it's amazing that here you were dealing with an illness that's a tough one. I've done some work with the lupus awareness community, and it's tough to just even get that diagnosis and then to find adequate treatment, or, or try to navigate through that. So how and when did you decide, okay, we did this, and now I'm going to create a nonprofit?
Yes, ma'am. It took about 1.5 years for a friend that I did volunteer work with. He was with Aetna at the time. And he said, "Hey, I think you got a winner here. The dynamics of your life has drastically changed. So what do you think about launching a nonprofit?" And he was amazing and very instrumental in getting us rolling, with helping us secure the funding for all of our tax filings, and even just walking us through that process of paperwork. As you know, the paperwork is probably the hardest part of launching a nonprofit. And so he was very instrumental in helping us launch the program.
Well, it's always good to have a friend as a resource because it's not an easy step, and it takes time.
Yes, ma'am.
It takes time and a lot of patience, I think, as you read through state and federal government to deal with that. So kudos to you and having that good friend. All right, so you get your tax stuff, you get your 501c3. Okay, what's next in your journey? Because it wasn't just food, it was food for a long time, but you opened the space up.
Yes, ma'am. So after running the pantry site at the Linwood YMCA, Brooklyn Cuts Barbershop became an emergency hub. So if the Linwood YMCA wasn't open and a family was in need, we was able to direct them to the barbershop to get emergency assistance. But from there, we began to notice that if a family is in need of food assistance, there's lack somewhere else. And so we begin to brainstorm on how to take a holistic approach to supplying the needs of those in the community. We did a couple of surveys with some of the families that were comfortable with having conversations with us, which then began to launch our hygiene pantry as an extension of our pantry services. And then every year since our conception, we've been blessed to add another resource program to our roster.
So tell me how this all works. You do not have a location yourself. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we are considered a 501c3 mobile volunteer-based social service organization, which basically means we are a 501c3 organization recognized by the state, but we do not take on the expense of a brick and mortar. What we have done is cultivated a connection network where we create connection hubs. So we work with churches, Boys and Girls Clubs and YMCAs, and also school districts. So we have contracts with KCPS, Hickman Middle School District, and Kansas City, Kansas Public School Districts, where we go in. They provide us with a classroom every year. We go in and basically stage our resources. All of the programs that we offer are staged at the schools. So that way, if a student or their family is in need of resources, they don't have to try to track down one of our other sites at a church or a community center. They can speak with the teacher or a counselor directly at the school, and they are able to take them directly into the room and meet their need. And we just keep the room stocked once a month for the schools. So we try our very best to not only, again, cultivate those relationships with community partners, but we try to remove as many barriers as possible for families to be able to gain access to these resources.
That's brilliant, to go into school where families are. I imagine I'm blessed that I don't have to worry about those things, but I imagine it's very trying if you're working and your kids are in school and you're balancing all of that. How are you going to get to the next place and to have it right at the schools?
During business hours. I'm at work during business hours. And so if we can send the children home with, the request of the parent, that takes that burden and remove that barrier, again, to try to meet that need for the family. We recognize that if the children are hungry and basic needs, hygiene needs and stuff are not met, there is no way the children are learning and taking in the knowledge that the school and the teachers are trying to equip them with.
Relationships are so important. Tell us a little bit about how you made these connections with these school districts.
Yes, so we have been blessed. We have been blessed through our relationships with some of our founding sponsors, as I stated, the YMCA, Brooklyn Cuts Barbershop, Home State Health, Aetna. They actually kind of helped us navigate the waters and made those connections for us. So it is always good, as you stated earlier, it's always good to have friends. So it's always good to be a friend and have friends. And so apparently we've shown ourselves friendly. And so the groups and organizations we work with are always very open to sharing our information and our work, which allows us to continue the efforts and broaden our impact in the community.
You mentioned earlier in our conversation, a very important thing you say are your volunteers. So
yes,
how many volunteers does it take to do this and to move this forward if you're running mobile pantries and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, ma'am. So again, we have been blessed and fortunate to be surrounded by amazing people who have a heart for people. The people are the work, right? And so we've been blessed to cultivate that network of volunteers. The number of volunteers typically depends on what the program is as it relates to our reoccurring sites. So our schools, the churches we're in partnership with, they have cultivated their own set of volunteers. We provide the resources, the training. They in turn house and run the program for us. And so it has been a true blessing. And then we come in at our annual events, our bigger community-wide annual events. And it takes about 40 to 50 minimum volunteers to do those bigger annual events.
So tell us about those events. Tell us about what you're doing out in the community that people might be able to see and support.
Yes, ma'am. So we do a program that we call Project Cinderella Closet and Man of the Hour. It is a program geared to high school students. 2024 will be year 9 that we will be facilitating this program. And it is again geared towards high school students that are getting ready for prom and or graduation. So we again try to remove those barriers. Just purchasing a ticket for prom can be really costly, especially when you're dealing with low income families. So what we do is we take several months where we collect formal wear, new and gently used. And then we stage, we're all about staging the resources. So we stage what we call the Cinderella's Closet, and high school students are able to come and shop at no cost. To select, they get a personal shopper. They're able to try on their selection on site to see if it works or not for them. And then they also walk away with personal hygiene kits, new undergarments, cologne and perfume, makeup, all of those things are offered to them new and at no charge. We also host what we call Christmas in July. It is a program that encompasses all of our programs. So it is a day of spotlight on the resources that we offer and also the resources and the connections that our sponsors and community partners offer. So we invite all of our partners and sponsors out. Everyone stages booths with great giveaways. The Kansas City Public Library is on site doing book giveaways and just a lot of at no cost resources all in one spot, so families are able to apply for other programs outside of what we offer, but also get connected to our resources. We also do, and I know I'm talking a lot, so forgive me. We also do what we call Adopt a Family at Christmas, which we are gearing up for that currently, where we adopt families for Christmas. Families can apply for the program. There is no income restriction. We recognize that I can have a good job today, and one life circumstances changes everything for us.
Right.
And so there is no income restrictions. We just ask that families apply, provide proof of the families in the home, and then they're able to come out with us on a selected day and shop for the supplies and gifts for their families for Christmas. For this event, we do not allow the children to come.
We
I do
lost your
apologize.
sound there. No, that's the fun of doing stuff right live. So
Yes,
at Christmas, you don't let the kids come. Tell us why.
Yes, ma'am. We do not allow the children to attend the holiday shopping store with their parents or guardians, because we want to be able to not only provide the resources for families, but provide it and offer them a sense of dignity. So we've discovered that allowing the families to, one, make the selection of what they would like to present to their kids and do it without the children there allows them to present the gift to the child on Christmas from them. So not only do we provide the toys, we provide wrapping paper, gift bags, gift boxes. We bring out our mobile food pantry, and our hygiene closet on that day as well.
Boy, you don't do anything. You must be sitting around having nothing to do, girlfriend. We're talking with Jessica Bentley-Johnson. She is the CEO, founder, queen of Urban Community Connections. How do you get all this stuff? How are you able to pull those resources together? And do you have a place to store it? Share with us how all of that works for your organization.
Yes, ma'am. So when we launched in 2013, we would basically make pleas with the community. We would reach out to area retailers, let them know, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how you can get involved. And from there, it has grown where we've been able to secure contracts with the Jeremiah 2911 project in Warrensburg, Missouri, where they acquire truckloads of resources from Amazon and Walmart. These items are typically brand new, never used. And so we're able to drive down to Warrensburg or drive down to Sedalia, bring truckloads of resources back, and then disperse them out to our site and the community. We do not have a brick and mortar, but we do have storage units that we typically house some of our annual supplies. So for Christmas, we've been gearing up for Christmas since February of 2023. And so as you can imagine, it's quite a bit of toys sitting in the warehouse. But for the most part, resources are being funneled as they're coming in, they're being funneled back out into the sites. And so typically when we get them in, we process them in and they go right to the site.
That just sounds like an overwhelming type of thing to coordinate and do. How do you do that?
It is the Lord. It truly is. It truly is. Again, when I was diagnosed in 2012, I wasn't able to work for quite a while. And I hit a state of depression really bad because I've been used to working my entire life. And I will never forget, I heard the Lord very clearly tell me to launch the program. And I was extremely terrified. I didn't know how or where to start or where the resources and funding was going to come from. But every time that I listen to what he tells me, everything works out above anything that I've ever could have imagined. And so it really is the Lord that gives me the strength.
Let's talk a little bit about the people you're serving and how they get to you. You have on-site locations. So is there any kind of assessment of who qualifies? You mentioned before, I think with the Christmas program, but just overall in your food pantries, is it just anybody who shows up? I mean, how do you balance that?
Yes, ma'am. So the only thing that we ask when you arrive is that you have an ID, some form of ID, because we are funded by private and corporate donors. We do have to track certain things. But outside of that, if you can make it to one of our sites, we want to serve you as best as possible. And so there is no income restrictions. If you show up, there obviously is a need, and we will do our very best to serve you.
Where's the best place for people to go check out everything that you're doing?
Yes, ma'am. They can visit us on our website, which is our name. It is www.urbancommunityconnections.org.
Had to give you that opportunity for a plug. You mentioned that the places you go really provide the volunteers. Are there opportunities for people to volunteer for your organization, do things, and what does that look like?
Yes, ma'am. There's always opportunity to volunteer. We love to connect with seniors give them a sense of purpose. Sometimes you retire and you have nothing to do and you're sitting at home all day. We can find something for you to do at UCC. There's plenty good room for everyone. And we also love working with students. So I know a lot of times high school students especially need volunteer hours for graduation. So you can visit our website, check out all of our available volunteer hours, or just give us a call or text at 816-336-9549.
I love that you mentioned the folks that, have retired and may not have a meaning or a purpose. What a great thing to encourage that. Can you share any kind of stories of, that interaction perhaps of the client or the recipient and volunteers working there? I'm sure you've been at a lot of sites. So I just wondered if there were a story or two that struck you as, hey, we've really hit home.
Yeah, one of I call her my rolling buddy. Her name is Brenda Harlan. We call her Sweetie Mama. She goes to church with me, and she heard about the work that we were doing. And she is by my side for everything. She retired from Kellogg's a few years ago, after being with Kellogg's for 30 years. And so she says all the time, "Oh, you give me a reason to get up every day." And I look at her like, I don't know how you have the energy. She keeps me going. And she really is a great blessing to the organization and to me personally. And so, again, there's always something for everyone to do, no matter what you deem your limitation is. There is good room for everyone.
So everybody go check it out. If you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, you guys are working all year long.
Yes,
You've been
ma'am.
doing this for a little bit. You went through a rebranding. Tell us why you decided to change the name and what that was like for your organization.
Yes, ma'am. So again, when we had launched in 2013, we were Urban Community Link. And as we began to really build on our programming and the resources that we offer, we just thought connections worked better than link. And so again, we're all about cultivating those relationships, those connections, those partnerships, and just building on that. And so that was the whole reason behind the rebranding is we just felt like we're all about the connections. And no matter what that connection looked like, it's a connection. And so that was the driving force behind the rebranding.
We didn't even talk about, though, do you have a board and who serves on your board if you have one?
Yes, we have an amazing board. Again, volunteer board. We have Pastor Gary L. Hopkins out of Oakland, California. Noel Swinton out of Kansas City, Missouri. Christasia Shea here in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm drunk. Raylana Brown here in Kansas City, Missouri. And so we're kind of going through some changes. And we will be seeking one additional board member rolling into 2024. So if you have ever had a desire to work on a board, have a heart for people and connections, be on the lookout for that information that'll be coming in 2024.
Tell me a little bit about the role your board plays. Are they a working board, a policy board? How does it work with you? Because I know you're so grassroots.
Yes, ma'am. So they are a combination of both. And so the our board is very instrumental. They're very hands-on in the day-to-day work. But we do set aside time quarterly to do reviews, do updates and check-ins. They help me make sure that I'm staying on track, and that we're adhering to all the rules and guidelines of the state, and our 501c3 status. And so they have been a blessing to me and just helping keep me on track.
Well, you seem to be on track. So they must be doing a brilliant job. And I think that you've got it together, lady. Where do you see your organization, let's say, in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do?
In the next 10 years, it's a little scary, but I do see us being housed out of multiple states.
Wow.
So we do quite a bit of work in California through our connection with our board member that is stationed in California. And so we have been in talks of really expanding the program to other states. And so it's a little scary because it is new territory, but we believe that's the next step for UCC.
That's a big dream. Wow.
Damn.
I look forward to talking to you again in the future to see how you're moving forward with that. That's really wonderful. But meantime, here in Kansas City, kind of what's the top challenge for you, and how are you looking to address it?
Yes, ma'am. So I would say the top challenge would be securing additional resources and funding. As you could imagine, we've been blessed with our sites and to serve the community we do. And so there's always that need. And so we have a list of schools and churches that the programs will be great at. We are just, in a state of trying to secure additional funding. And so coming in 2024, be on the lookout. We are launching what we call Connect and Brunch. So we will invite corporate groups out and businesses to come out. They can sit and have lunch with us and then hear more about the programs that we're offering, talk firsthand with some of the families that we are serving, speak with the schools that are on that waiting list to have access to the resources. And then hopefully that'll be able to open the door for additional funding and they can get that firsthand view as to, okay, now we see why this additional funding is necessary.
Providing food. I like that. And introducing, we provide food and we're going to provide food for you this morning. There you go.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, something about sitting and having conversation over a meal, even if it's a light meal or light refreshments, it seems to let the guard down because a lot of times you're more focused on eating. And so it just opens the door for better conversation. And we're all about, again, feeding the community.
Right.
So yes, ma'am. Anytime you connect with UCC, you're going to get fed.
I love that. Well, it's urban community connections. Jessica Bentley-Johnson, thank you for the time you've spent with us. You're doing amazing work in the community, and we wish you and your organization the very best.
Thank you and the entire KC Cares group. We really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us for KC Cares. We're Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, also a nonprofit. This KC Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. To be a guest on KC Cares or underwriting opportunities to support the work we do, please visit our website, kccaresonline.org. And spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. And don't forget, you can catch us on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. Thank you for joining us on KC Cares.